Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of sources and really try to distill the most compelling insights just for you.
Glad to be here.
Today we're plunging into a topic that, honestly, often feels completely misunderstood. Stoicism and love. When you hear Stoic, what comes to mind? You probably picture someone, well, unfeeling, right? Detached. Maybe an ancient philosopher totally unmoved by life's joys or sorrows.
That's the common image, absolutely. It's really pervasive.
If that's what you think, you're definitely not alone.
Yeah.
But what if that whole perception is not just wrong, but it actually limits how we understand this philosophy, especially how it can enrich our closest relationships?
Exactly. That stereotype, the emotionless Stoic,
Yeah.
it really couldn't be much further from the truth, particularly when we look at the full picture of human connection in their writings.
Okay.
What's genuinely surprising and I think really insightful here is that Stoicism isn't just, compatible with love and relationships.
Right.
As we'll explore, it actually provides a pretty powerful framework, one that can deepen them, strengthen them, make them more resilient.
So our mission in this deep dive is basically to challenge those ideas, those preconceptions,
Yeah.
and explore how this ancient Stoic wisdom, from figures like Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, offers practical, really enduring tools for building genuinely stronger, healthier, and more virtuous romantic partnerships.
It's really not about suppressing emotion or retreating from the world. Not at all.
So what is it about then?
It's more about understanding and maybe directing our emotional life, doing it with wisdom, with purpose.
Okay. Directing, not denying. I like that.
Yeah. And we're going to unpack several critical areas today. We'll definitely look at how Stoicism can foster better communication within relationships. That's huge.
Always key.
And how it empowers us to manage those often unrealistic expectations we all have.
Oh, definitely guilty of those sometimes.
We all are. And also why it encourages this really profound focus on character.
Yeah.
Over fleeting passions or looks.
Character over chemistry, maybe, or alongside it.
Something like that, focusing on the enduring stuff. And crucially, we'll examine how these principles equip us to navigate the inevitable challenges, the disappointments, even the heartbreaks that love, well, it always brings, doesn't it?
It certainly does. That's a really powerful distinction right from the start. It already challenges, like you said, pretty much everything we thought we knew. So if we're moving beyond this stereotype, this emotional detachment idea, let's really dive into how ancient Stoic thought actually saw emotions themselves.
Beyond the stereotype of emotional detachment.
Okay, let's hit this head on. The biggest myth. Stoics are statues, devoid of feeling.
Right, the walking statue image.
Exactly. But the sources, when you actually read them, they paint a much more nuanced picture, and frankly, a far more human one.
Indeed. And this is fundamental. The goal of Stoicism was never, ever to eliminate all emotions entirely.
Right.
There's this Greek term, apatheia. It often gets translated pretty misleadingly as apathy in English.
Yeah, sounds negative, like not caring.
Right. But it actually meant something closer to freedom from disturbances or freedom from passion in the sense of being overwhelmed.
Freedom from disturbance, not freedom from feeling.
Precisely. It wasn't about being unfeeling. It was about minimizing those disruptive negative emotions, things like excessive grief, uncontrollable anger, paralyzing fear.
The kind that mess things up.
Exactly. The Stoics believed these particular emotions stemmed from faulty judgments, incorrect beliefs about what's truly good or bad in life.
Okay, so if you judge things correctly, you won't have those extreme negative reactions.
That's the core idea. They believed these could be managed, maybe even eradicated with practice. But normal, healthy human feelings, joy, affection, delight in your friend's company, even a natural, moderate sorrow.
Those are okay. Allowed.
Absolutely acknowledged. Accepted as just part of living a human life, part of our nature.
So the distinction is really critical then. It's not about being a robot.
Not at all.
It's about not being disturbed or thrown off course by emotions that come from getting things wrong, from incorrect perceptions.
You've got it.
Can you give us an example, something that really brings this home?
Yeah.
Because that idea of the unfeeling Stoic is just so ingrained.
Oh, absolutely. Let's take Seneca, the famous example of Seneca at his execution.
Okay.
So, story goes, his friends start weeping uncontrollably. They're devastated about his impending death.
Understandable reaction.
Totally. But Seneca chastises them. He asks, essentially, what happened to your stoicism? Where's your philosophical resolve?
Harsh or...
Well, here's the key part. His rebuke wasn't really about their sadness itself. It wasn't, don't be sad.
Okay.
It was about them losing control, being utterly disturbed and overwhelmed by his fate, which, from a Stoic perspective, was an external event, not within their control.
Right, the dichotomy of control again.
Exactly. So his death shouldn't cause such profound disquiet in them, but here's what's often missed. In that very same account, just moments before this, Seneca embraces his wife, Paulina. It's described as a tender, affectionate farewell. He even tries to console her.
Wow. So deep love and affection right there at the end.
Absolutely. This act of profound human connection right alongside his calm acceptance of his own death, it just vividly illustrates it. Deep affection, profound love, they weren't just present, they were deeply valued.
So the ideal isn't being a stone.
No, it's being a human being who can love profoundly, feel deeply, but not be overwhelmed or, destabilized by external events like death, which are ultimately beyond our power.
So a true Stoic isn't cold. They have this, inner fortress, an inner calm.
That's a great way to put it. An inner citadel of calm.
And that lets them feel affection, feel love, without being constantly knocked over by life's inevitable ups and downs, the external currents.
Exactly. It's about freedom through discipline, through understanding, not freedom from feeling altogether.
That makes so much more sense.
And another point here, the Roman Stoics, especially people like Seneca, they really soften the edges of the sage. The theoretical, perfectly wise Stoic.
Okay.
Well, some earlier Greek Stoic descriptions, they sometimes painted a picture of this almost unreachable figure, perfectly rational, seemingly aloof, basically free of all disturbances.
It's intimidating, and maybe not very helpful for us regular folks.
Right. But the Romans, maybe they were more pragmatic, certainly more relatable. They shifted the emphasis quite a bit. They focused more on progressors.
Progressors.
Yeah, individuals like you and me. People actively trying to improve their character, their moral judgments, people who fully acknowledge, hey, I'm human, I make mistakes, this is an ongoing journey.
Towards virtue, towards self-mastery.
Exactly. It made Stoicism much more accessible, much more relatable to everyday life, including our relationships. The focus became progress, striving, not some unattainable perfection.
And Epictetus?
Yeah.
He taught ordinary people, right? Did he continue that trend?
Yeah.
Making it more, human.
Yes, very much so. Epictetus himself, sort of tacitly, modified some of the perceived harshness you might find in earlier Stoic authorities.
Like what?
He explicitly pushed for gentleness, for tolerance towards people who make mistakes, who err. He wasn't endorsing this idea of being pitiless and unforgiving.
That sounds much more compassionate.
It is. His teachings really leaned heavily towards understanding people, patiently guiding them, helping them correct their own faulty judgments, not judging them harshly for making mistakes in the first place. He got that we're all just works in progress, not all-knowing sages.
Okay, this is really clarifying the true nature of Stoic emotional discipline then. It really means Stoicism isn't about shutting down your emotional life. It's about directing it intelligently, understanding where emotions come from.
Yes, understanding their origins and our judgments.
And making sure they actually serve our well-being, strengthen our relationships instead of, derailing everything.
Precisely. It's about self-mastery, not self-extinction, and developing a kind of profound emotional intelligence.
Knowing which emotions help and which hurt.
Exactly. Recognizing which emotions are productive, aligned with reason, aligned with virtue, and which ones just stem from those faulty judgments and only lead to unnecessary suffering or, frankly, destructive behavior towards ourselves and towards others.
That brings so much more clarity to managing our inner world, the Stoic way. Okay, but if it's not about shutting down emotions, how does Stoicism view our basic inherent drive, the drive to connect with others? Especially in deep romantic love. Is that just something they tolerated, or is it actually woven into the philosophy itself?
Now this is where a really key concept comes in, oikeiosis.
Oikeiosis, okay. Sounds important.
It is. It's absolutely central to understanding the Stoic view on human connection, because Stoicism fundamentally sees humans as social animals. We're inherently wired for connection, not isolation. That's a core belief. Our nature is communal.
Oikeiosis. That's probably a term a lot of our listeners haven't heard. Can you break that down? How does that idea support love and relationships in Stoicism?
Sure. Think of oikeiosis as a kind of natural appropriation or maybe affinity. It's a process, really, of gradually extending your circle of concern.
Extending concern. How does that start?
Well, the sources highlight that from infancy, we're naturally inclined to care for ourselves, to preserve our own being. Basic survival instinct, right?
Makes sense.
But, and this is crucial, this instinct isn't seen as purely selfish or isolationist. It naturally extends outwards, like ripples in a pond.
Right.
It first takes in those closest to us, our family, our children, our partners. And then, ideally, it keeps expanding to friends, neighbors, fellow citizens, and ultimately to all people, forming the basis of what they call cosmopolitanism or universal brotherhood.
So it's like an ever-widening circle of empathy, of care, starting really close and intimate and then expanding out to everyone.
Precisely. Nature itself, the Stoics argued, it engenders parents' love for their children, and this very basic primal bond, they saw that as the starting point, the very beginning of the universal human community. As our sources put it beautifully, nature itself drives us to love those we have engendered.
That's powerful. So it's not just biology, it's ethics.
Exactly. It's a foundational principle of Stoic ethics. Connection is natural, it's good, it's virtuous. The mutual attraction between humans, the desire to form bonds, partnerships, this is considered natural. We are, and I quote loosely here, by nature suited to form unions, societies, and states.
Union societies. That sounds broader than just government.
Oh, absolutely. It isn't merely about civic life. It very clearly implies that romantic bonds, familial bonds, these are fundamental to human flourishing. They're in accord with our nature.
So falling in love, getting married, having kids, these aren't distractions from the philosophical path. Or worse, temptations to avoid.
Not at all. They're seen as integral parts, maybe even necessary parts, for many people of living a virtuous Stoic life.
Really? That seems
right.
opposite to the stereotype.
It really is. Consider Musonius Rufus. He was a very influential Stoic teacher. He argued strongly that women should get the exact same philosophical training as boys. He emphasized their equal capacity for reason and virtue.
Progressive for the time.
Very. And he also directly tackled the question, should a philosopher marry?
And the answer was?
His teachings, and other sources too, point to a clear Stoic view that the wise person should generally marry and have children. We know figures like Perseus of Citium, even Cleanthes, apparently wrote entire works on marriage.
Treatises on marriage, so they took it seriously.
Very seriously. It wasn't just permitted, it was seen as a natural, even virtuous path. A kind of duty, actually, that aligns perfectly with our social nature and contributes to the well-being of the whole human community.
Okay, what truly flips my understanding of Stoicism on its head here
Go on.
is that deep human connection, including romantic love, isn't just tolerated. It's considered a duty, a natural and virtuous path.
That seems to be the strong implication, yes. Part of fulfilling our nature as social beings.
That's not just accepting connection. It's actively pursuing it as part of living a good life, part of expanding that circle of concern, that oikeiosis. This completely dismantles that detached stereotype we started with. It's fascinating. 2, the inner fortress. Control, responsibility, and the foundation of character. All right, so we've established that Stoicism actually embraces deep human connection. It's not anti-love.
Definitely not.
So now let's talk about how we build these relationships on a really solid foundation. A cornerstone of Stoicism, and I think this is just absolutely vital for healthy, resilient relationships, is understanding what we truly control and what we don't.
Yes, the famous dichotomy of control.
Exactly.
And this is perhaps the most pivotal Stoic principle for our own well-being, sure, but by extension for the health and, frankly, the longevity of our relationship.
So break it down for us. What's in, what's out?
Epictetus especially was incredibly clear on this, crystal clear. He stressed that we have complete control only over our judgments, our thoughts, our intentions, our volition, basically our inner ruling faculty, as he called it.
Our inner world, our choices.
Precisely.
Right.
Everything else, he teaches, is fundamentally outside our complete control. Or, in Stoic terms, it's indifferent.
Indifferent. That sounds a bit dismissive. What falls into that category?
Well, it includes our body's health, sickness, our possessions, our reputation, what others think of us, external events, weather, politics, pandemics, and crucially for this discussion, other people's actions, feelings, and thoughts.
Oof. Other people's feelings and actions are outside my control. That's a tough pill to swallow in a relationship.
It really is. It's a radical shift in perspective for many, but also incredibly challenging, as you say.
So let's make it practical.
Yeah.
For our listener, how does this dichotomy of control actually work in, say, a disagreement with a partner?
Yeah.
How do I use this when things get heated? Maybe my partner's upset, maybe I'm getting upset too.
Okay, great question. In that heated moment, this principle is like a lifeline. Seriously, your partner says something that, bang, upsets you. The Stoic approach immediately reminds you. You don't control their words. You don't control their initial emotion, whatever sparked it.
Okay, I can't control what they just said or felt.
Right. But what you do control, absolutely, is your judgment about what they said and your reaction to it.
My interpretation and my response.
Exactly. So instead of immediately firing back, getting angry, getting defensive, you pause. Internally, you ask yourself, is my interpretation of their words the only possible one? Is my anger really coming from their action, or is it coming from my judgment that their action is inherently mean or disrespectful or unfair?
That pause requires some serious self-awareness in the moment.
It does. It takes practice. But by focusing on your internal judgment, you regain agency. You're not just reacting. You can choose. Choose to interpret with charity, maybe. Choose to ask for clarification. Choose to respond calmly instead of just being swept away by that reactive emotion.
So it breaks the cycle of reaction, counter-reaction.
That's the goal. Epictetus makes this point so powerfully. He says our rationality, our ability to reason and choose, is our most precious gift. God, he says, gave us complete autonomy over it.
Complete autonomy over our own mind.
Yes. He even declared the robber of your free will does not exist, meaning nothing external can force your judgment. Your inner freedom is unassailable.
Wow.
And the implication for relationships is just profound. If we make our happiness, our sense of okayness, dependent on things outside our control.
Like my partner always being happy or the relationship always being smooth.
Exactly. If we depend on that, we make our happiness, as one source puts it, extremely vulnerable to forces out of our control.
Sets you up for failure.
Completely. It leads, predictably, to frustration, disappointment, resentment, suffering.
Yeah, it sounds like a recipe for disaster if you're constantly trying to control the uncontrollable. Especially in something as intimate and unpredictable as a relationship. You're setting both partners up for failure.
Exactly right. The Stoic perspective teaches that a good life, a truly flourishing life, it depends on cultivating your own character, your choices, your actions, not on what happens in the uncontrollable world around you or even what your partner does or doesn't do.
So focus inward.
Focus inward. This focus on an internal locus of control is just crucial for a virtuous partnership because it means each person takes responsibility for their own inner state, their own emotional regulation.
That must lift a huge burden off the relationship.
Immense. It frees you from placing that impossible burden, you must make me happy, entirely on your partner. It's about finding a kind of self-sufficiency in your own happiness, which paradoxically makes you a more generous, more stable, less demanding partner.
So the key implication here, true strength, true resilience in a relationship. It doesn't come from manipulating things outside you or trying to change your partner.
Nope.
It comes from each person building their own inner fortress, that strong, self-reliant character.
Beautifully put, the inner fortress.
This has to significantly shift the dynamic away from unhealthy codependence towards something more like healthy interdependence.
Precisely. And this leads us directly, really, to the next critical Stoic point, understanding character itself. Character as the sole true good.
Okay, character as the sole good. Let's unpack that.
Building on this idea of internal control, Stoics believe that true goodness lies only in having a virtuous character and in making good judgments that lead to virtuous actions.
Only. That sounds extreme. What about things like health or wealth or even having a loving relationship itself? Aren't those good?
This is where the term indifference comes back, but with a distinction. They recognize preferred and dispreferred indifference.
Preferred and dispreferred.
Yeah, so things like health, wealth, a good reputation, a loving partner, these are naturally preferred. It's rational to prefer health over sickness, partnership over loneliness, of course.
Okay, that makes more sense. So you can prefer them.
Absolutely. But, and this is the crucial Stoic distinction, that these things, whether preferred or dispreferred, like sickness, poverty, loneliness, they do not inherently make you a better or worse person. They don't determine your moral worth.
So my health status doesn't make me morally good or bad.
Exactly. And critically, they don't guarantee true, lasting happiness, or what the Greeks called eudaimonia, genuine human flourishing. Only virtue does that.
That's still incredibly rigorous and maybe a bit stark. For those of us who are used to really valuing specific traits in a partner, their looks, their success, their sense of humor, shared hobbies, if those are just indifferent, how does a Stoic genuinely appreciate their partner as an individual? beyond just their virtue? Doesn't it kind of diminish the unique things we cherish?
That's a really perceptive question, and it gets to the nuance. It's not about disregarding those preferred qualities. While external qualities are indifferent in the specific sense that they don't contribute to your virtue or your eudaimonia, you don't have to ignore them. We can certainly prefer a partner who is, witty or attractive or healthy or shares our love of hiking.
You can enjoy those things.
Absolutely. But the Stoic doesn't depend on these preferred indifference for their own happiness or for the relationship's fundamental value.
Where does the real appreciation come from then?
It comes from recognizing and fostering the virtue in their partner. That's the true, enduring good. Your partner's kindness, their courage, their honesty, their self-control, their wisdom, these are expressions of their character. That's the only thing that truly matters for a flourishing life, according to Stoicism.
So you enjoy the unique qualities, the preferred indifference, but your foundation, your core appreciation, rests on their character.
You got it. You can enjoy the unique qualities without making your inner peace totally contingent upon them. Our sources state it plainly. Only a virtuous character is genuinely good. And that thesis directly supports focusing on a partner's integrity, their kindness, their wisdom, these lasting qualities over, fleeting passions, how they look today, or other superficial things. Those things change. Character endures. It's reliable.
And this virtue, it's enough for happiness.
For a Stoic, yes. Virtue is considered sufficient for eudaimonia, for a truly flourishing life. This is a key difference from someone like Aristotle, who thought you also needed some external goods, like a certain level of health or wealth for happiness.
Right.
For the Stoic, your inner virtuous state is your flourishing, living according to reason, aligning your choices with what's right.
And that means your partner isn't responsible for making you happy.
Correct. They're not responsible for creating your happiness, but ideally, they're sharing in the pursuit of virtue alongside you, which makes for a far more self-reliant, less codependent connection.
So the Stoic ideal is cultivate this inner flourishing in yourself, and then seek a partner who's also genuinely striving for that. So you can walk that virtuous path together. That really redefines the purpose of a relationship.
It absolutely does. And Epictetus talks about this, about our inherent tools for it. He highlights qualities like integrity, freedom, courage, sturdiness, conscientiousness.
These you already have.
He saw them as natural faculties, things people are innately equipped with to some degree. And he believed moral progress isn't about getting something totally new from the outside. It's about becoming true to these essential, maybe even God-given selves.
Developing what's already there.
Exactly. Recognizing and developing what's already within you, living up to your fullest human potential. And this inner cultivation makes you a much more reliable partner, more stable, more genuinely desirable in the deepest sense, because your core identity is anchored in these virtues, not in fleeting externals. Such a relationship has a much stronger, much more unshakable foundation.
This focus on virtue as the sole good and our built-in capacity for it, it sounds incredibly empowering for personal growth within a relationship.
It really is.
It suggests that the best thing you can bring to a partnership is your own cultivated virtuous self. And maybe the greatest gift your partner can give you is their own commitment to that same inner work.
That's a beautiful way to summarize the ideal, yes. 3, building virtuous partnerships, applying Stoic principles to love.
Okay, we've laid some serious groundwork. How Stoicism sees emotions, connection, character. Now let's get practical. Let's bring it down to earth.
Right, the application.
How do these powerful principles actually translate into the messy, beautiful, often unpredictable reality of love and relationships? Let's start with something huge. Expectations. Unrealistic expectations cause so much pain in partnerships. How do Stoics tell us to approach this?
This is exactly where applying that dichotomy of control and understanding the nature of indifference becomes so critical and, honestly, incredibly liberating.
Liberating how?
Well, think about those desires we have for external things in a relationship. Expecting your partner to always act a certain way, or for the relationship to be totally free of conflict, which is impossible.
Right. Or expecting them to meet your every single emotional need all the time.
Exactly. All of those desires, the Stoics would classify as unnecessary desires. And crucially, they concern things that are fundamentally beyond our control.
So wanting those things is setting ourselves up for disappointment.
Precisely. To base your happiness on them is like building your house on quicksand. It's just not stable.
And what happens when those desires inevitably aren't met? Which, let's be real, they often aren't. Life is complex. People are imperfect.
When we fail to get what we desire, or when we encounter what we wish to avoid, That, the Stoics said, produces perturbations, disorders, misfortunes, sorrows, lamentations, envy.
All the negative stuff.
All the negative stuff. These are the very things that poison relationships. Jealousy, resentment, constant dissatisfaction. The Stoics saw clearly that much unhappiness, especially in how we relate to each other, comes directly from wanting what we simply cannot control, wanting a specific outcome from another person. That's a direct path to disappointment.
Okay, so how do we manage those expectations then? Is there a specific Stoic tool or practice?
Yes, a very powerful one. Premeditatio malorum.
Premeditation of evils.
Sounds grim.
It sounds grim, I know, but it's not about being morbid. It involves deliberately, in your mind, imagining unwelcome situations.
Like what?
Could be something small, like imagining your favorite coffee mug breaking, or something significant, like a job loss, or even something devastating, like, as the texts say, the death of a loved one.
Wow, why on earth would you do that? Isn't that just borrowing trouble? Making yourself miserable ahead of time?
That's the common reaction, but it's not the purpose at all. The goal isn't to dwell on negativity or make yourself anxious. It's a mental exercise, a kind of training.
Training for what? To loosen our unhealthy attachment to external events. To reduce the shock and anxiety when difficult things do happen, because they will. This practice is vital for preparing our minds for the inevitable challenges, the changes, the losses that occur in all relationships. It helps us face them with more calm, more equanimity, not as a complete shock, but as part of life's unpredictable flow. It's about preparing the mind, not inviting misfortune.
So imagining the worst, not to suffer twice, but so you can actually appreciate the present more and not be totally blindsided when things inevitably go wrong.
Exactly. You appreciate what you have now, knowing it's not guaranteed forever.
But for many people, that feels so counterintuitive, almost dark. We're always told, think positive. How do Stoics square this seemingly negative practice with trying to live a flourishing life? Are we meant to just dwell on bad stuff? Or is there a specific mental muscle we're trying to build?
That's an excellent point. And no, it's absolutely not about dwelling on negativity or inviting despair. That would be counterproductive. Yeah. The Stoics were very clear. Premeditatio malorum is proactive mental training. Think of it like a psychological inoculation. It builds resilience.
An inoculation against shock and despair.
In a way, yes. We think positive when it comes to our own intentions and actions. We strive for virtue. We aim to do good. But when it comes to external things outside our control, we have to acknowledge their fragility, their impermanence.
Accept reality.
Accept reality. By mentally rehearsing difficult scenarios calmly, rationally, you're not dwelling on them in a fearful way. You're simply accepting their possibility. And by doing that, you diminish their power to shock and destabilize you if and when they actually happen. It builds that inner sturdiness we talked about.
Okay, that makes more sense. It's preparation, not pessimism.
Right. Epictetus, in his typically blunt style, says something like, "You are a fool to want your children, wife, or friends to be immortal. It calls for powers beyond you and gifts not yours to either own or give."
Ouch. But direct.
Very direct. But again, it's not about being cold or unfeeling. It's about accepting the fundamental reality of impermanence, acknowledging the limits of our control. And by doing that, we free ourselves from the tyranny of impossible desires. It actually allows us to appreciate the present moments we do have much more deeply, not desperately clinging, but with grateful acceptance.
Gratitude for the now because you know it's not guaranteed.
Exactly. And this perspective is really reinforced by another profound Stoic idea. Everything that we have and that we love is merely on loan.
On loan. From fortune, from the universe.
Something like that. When we truly understand and internalize this, that nothing external is truly ours permanently, it fosters incredible gratitude for what we have right now. It lets us hold our loved ones maybe a bit more lightly, cherishing them for the time they're with us. And it significantly reduces the shock, the anger, the prolonged destructive grief when things inevitably change or end.
This really does offer a fascinating shift in perspective. It sounds like it's about finding deep joy, deep contentment in what is, in the precious present moments you share, rather than constantly lamenting what isn't or worrying endlessly about what might happen in the future.
That's it, exactly.
It feels like it allows for a more open-hearted love, maybe less fearful, because you're prepared for change. And your contentment comes from within, not from demanding guarantees from the outside world or from your partner.
Precisely. Your foundation is internal.
Okay, let's shift to communication. It's the absolute bedrock, right, of any successful relationship.
Absolutely critical.
And it's an area where our own judgments, our assumptions, our emotional reactions, they can either build bridges of understanding or, burn them right down. How does Stoicism offer tools for better communication, both in terms of, radical self-awareness and how we actually choose to interact with our partners?
Well, a huge amount of conflict in relationships, the Stoics would argue, doesn't actually arise from the events themselves.
No. Where does it come from, then?
Yeah, from our faulty judgments about those external events. And this absolutely includes a partner's actions or words. Our initial interpretation, what we think they meant, or why we think they did something, that interpretation can often be the real source of our distress, not the action or word itself.
And it's into things.
Constantly, we project our own fears, our insecurities, our past hurts onto what's happening right now.
So it's not the comment itself that starts the fight, but my judgment about the comment. Wow, that's a powerful, almost unsettling idea. It demands a lot of introspection, doesn't it?
It really does. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, he wrote something like, if you are grieved about anything external, 'tis not the thing itself that afflicts you, but your judgment about it. And it is in your power to correct this judgment and get quit of it.
It's in my power to correct my judgment.
Exactly. That's a profound insight for managing disagreements. For preventing small things from escalating into huge blowouts, it places the power to feel better squarely within your own mind. Not on changing your partner, not on forcing the situation to be different. It's a call to examine your own internal story.
Examine the narrative.
Yes. And Epictetus takes this even further. He advises that whenever we suffer setbacks, disturbances, grief, we should never blame others. Ever.
Never blame others, not even if they.
Nope. Instead, we should look inward to our own attitudes, our own judgments. He flat out states that blaming others is foolishness.
Wow. That shifts the focus dramatically, away from pointing fingers.
Totally. Away from external accusation and towards internal responsibility. Now, imagine that in a relationship. Think how different arguments would be if, instead of you did this or you made me feel, it was, okay, what's my judgment here? Why am I reacting this way?
It would mean far less finger-pointing. Much more self-reflection. It could lead to much more productive, more honest conversations if both partners could actually do that.
Imagine, if both partners approach disagreements from that place of self-responsibility, it could diffuse so much unnecessary conflict.
I can absolutely see that. Instead of you made me feel angry, it becomes something like, my judgment about what you said is making me feel angry, and I need to look at that judgment. That's radical accountability.
It is.
So how does Stoicism guide our response then? When a partner is angry or critical, maybe even unfairly, we can manage our judgment, but how do we react outwardly?
Great question. Seneca offers strong advice here. When faced with someone else's anger, your partner's anger, for instance, he advises strongly against responding with anger in return. Tit for tat just escalates things.
Don't fight fire with fire.
Exactly. He suggests it's always better to act calmly, to respond from a place of maybe loyalty or duty or justice, not from reactive anger. So, in a partnership argument, instead of just mirroring that negative emotion, you pause. You anchor yourself back in reason, in your own values, and you respond in a way that aligns with your virtues, aiming to de-escalate, to understand, maybe find common ground, rather than just hitting back.
Easier said than done, but a worthy goal.
Definitely takes practice. And Marcus Aurelius sets an incredibly high bar here, too, especially when facing criticism or even outright hostility.
What does he say?
He writes something to the effect of, my care shall be that I may never be found doing or speaking anything that truly deserves contempt. Will any hate me? Let him look to that. Basically, their hate is their problem, stemming from their judgments.
Okay, focus on my own actions.
Yes. He continues, I, for my part, will be kind and loving unto all, and even unto him that hates me. And the goal isn't just passive endurance. It's to show his error, not by way of exprobation, blame, or ostentation of my patience, look how patient I am, but ingenuously and meekly.
Wow. Show their error gently, with kindness and truth, not rubbing it in or making yourself look good.
Exactly. It emphasizes kindness, truth, genuine concern over ego, even when you're being attacked. It's a truly aspirational approach for any partnership. Leading with virtue, seeking to illuminate, not to dominate or win.
That's a powerful statement about maintaining your own inner integrity, even when provoked. Choosing the virtuous path, even when it's really hard. It requires immense self-control.
It absolutely does. And underpinning all this, Epictetus explicitly talks about maintaining our relations, The Greek word is chaises.
Says.
Yeah, it refers to all our natural and acquired roles, like being a pious person, a son, a daughter, a father, a mother, a citizen, all the hats we wear. He says fulfilling these roles properly is a fundamental duty.
And that includes being a partner.
Absolutely. This broad framework of understanding and fulfilling our roles extends naturally to romantic partners. It guides us to constantly consider, what fits my role here? What does being a good partner require of me in this situation?
So it prompts you to ask, what would a loving, virtuous partner do or say right now?
Precisely, not just, what do I feel like doing or saying in my anger or hurt? It elevates the interaction.
So what this all implies for our relationships is, well, it's a radical self-responsibility, isn't it?
Huge self-responsibility.
A commitment to clarity, to virtue in how we speak and listen, and a deep empathy that tries to understand the other person's perspective, their judgments, rather than just condemning them. It's about being the best version of yourself for the relationship, not just in it. Viewing communication itself as an exercise in practical wisdom.
You've captured it perfectly.
Okay, let's talk about something very relevant to modern relationships. They can often feel, well, built on shifting sands, right? Fleeting passions, a huge focus on external appearance, maybe superficial ideals picked up from social media or movies. Stoicism seems to offer a dramatically different alternative, something much deeper. How does it steer us towards cultivating character over these more transient desires?
Yeah, the Stoic ideal fundamentally emphasizes enduring virtues over those transient pleasures. Seneca, for example, he famously claimed that pleasures of the flesh are paltry and trivial and fleeting when you compare them to the profound, lasting inner joy that comes from living virtuously.
Paltry, trivial, and fleeting. Strong words.
They are. Now, this isn't to say that physical intimacy or shared delights, enjoying things together, are inherently bad. Far from it. The Stoics weren't prudes in that sense.
Okay, good.
But they would strongly argue that these things cannot be the foundation of a truly fulfilling, resilient partnership. They're like maybe beautiful ornaments on a sturdy building, nice to have, they add beauty, but they're not the building's structural integrity. Character is the structure.
So it's about prioritizing what truly matters and what actually lasts. Recognizing that looks fade, passions cool, circumstances change, but character endures.
Precisely. Epictetus reinforces this. He suggests that the only truly good thing in life is to arrive at good judgments, and the only truly bad thing in life is to arrive at bad judgments.
Good judgments again. Back to the core.
Always back to judgments and character. This statement directly steers our focus away from those superficial qualities in a partner, their looks, their job title, their wealth, their social status, even just their charming quirks.
Things that often attract us initially.
Right. And instead, it prioritizes their character and their wisdom. Do they make sound judgments? Are they honest? Are they courageous? Are they kind? A partner with sound judgment and strong virtues will be a reliable, enriching, deeply satisfying presence in your life, regardless of external changes or just the passage of time. They become a source of strength, maybe even inspiration.
A partner in virtue.
Exactly. Our sources also directly imply that a healthy relationship is one that focuses on character. The true joy the Stoics seek, it's described as a serious matter. It's found, Seneca says, in your own resources. He writes, rejoice in what is yours. What is it that is yours? Yourself, the best part of you.
Find joy within yourself first.
Yes. This profound inner contentment makes you a stronger partner. Less needy, more grounded. A person who finds joy and fulfillment within themselves isn't dependent on their partner to complete them.
That's such a powerful counter-narrative to the whole "you complete me" idea from pop culture.
It really is. Instead, you come to the relationship already whole, or at least striving towards wholeness through virtue. And you choose to share your cultivated, complete self rather than desperately seeking someone else to fill your gaps. This fundamentally transforms the dynamic. It moves away from neediness towards mutual flourishing.
So you come to the relationship whole, and together you aim to elevate each other's virtue, support each other's growth. It shifts the burden of happiness entirely from external dependence to internal cultivation.
Exactly. And so the Stoic ideal for a partner, from this perspective, it isn't someone who fulfills all your fleeting desires or checks all the superficial boxes.
No. Who is it then?
It's someone who embodies virtue and resilience. Marcus Aurelius uses this amazing metaphor. He describes the ideal person, the ideal partner, implicitly, as a wrestler of the best sort, and for the highest prize.
A wrestler.
Yeah. That he may not be cast down by any passion or affection of his own, deeply dyed and drenched in righteousness, embracing and accepting with his whole heart whatsoever either happeneth or is allotted unto him.
Wow. That paints a picture. Strong, virtuous, resilient,
Yeah.
rooted in principles, accepting life's ups and downs.
Right. That's the kind of partner who offers real strength. Such a partnership isn't just pleasant, it's deeply purposeful. It's enduring.
It really is about building a partnership on bedrock, on something truly foundational and lasting, like character and shared virtue, not on those shifting sands of temporary attraction or superficial ideals. This creates a connection that's deep, lasting, and capable of weathering pretty much any storm.
That's the Stoic promise, yes.
Okay, weathering storms. No relationship is immune to hardship, is it?
Definitely not. Life happens.
Life happens. Illness, financial strain, job loss, personal setbacks. And then, inevitably, the profound pain of loss. Grief. These are the moments that truly test our deepest bonds.
They absolutely are.
How can Stoicism equip us to face these painful realities, not just as individuals, but together as partners, supporting each other through the really dark times?
Well, Stoicism, far from telling you to just suppress emotion or man up, actually provides a really robust framework. It helps cultivate resilience, foster genuine empathy, and even approach grief in a way that's meaningful and constructive.
Constructive grief, how does that work?
While the Stoics generally oppose those negative, overwhelming emotions like excessive, debilitating grief, which again, they saw as stemming from faulty judgments about the true nature of loss, like thinking death is an absolute evil,
Right.
they were utterly realistic. They knew loss is part of life. They recognized that some grief is inevitable in the course of a lifetime.
So they weren't denying the pain.
Not at all. The goal, therefore, wasn't to eliminate grief entirely. That's impossible for a human. It was to minimize its destructive, all-consuming power, and to process it in a way that aligns with virtue, with reason, and with our duties to those who are still living.
So it's about acknowledging the pain, feeling it, but not letting it completely consume you or destabilize your moral compass, your ability to function.
Exactly. It's about grieving virtuously, if you can put it that way.
How do they suggest we actually do that when the grief feels overwhelming? What's the Stoic approach?
Seneca offered some very practical advice for reasoning through grief. He suggested asking yourself questions like, is this intense, prolonged grieving what the person who died would actually want for me?
Probably not.
Right. He continues, of course not. She would want me to be happy, or at least to live well. The best way to honor her memory, Seneca argues, is to leave off excessive grieving and get on with life.
That doesn't mean forgetting them, though.
Not at all. It's not about forgetting. It's about reframing the grief, turning it into an impetus for living well now, honoring their memory through your continued virtue, your joy, your purpose.
And in a partnership.
It could mean supporting each other to move through grief with courage, with a renewed sense of purpose for the life you still share, rather than getting trapped together in a downward spiral of despair. Recognizing your duty isn't just to the person who's gone, but also to each other and to the life that continues.
That's a supportive, forward-looking way to grieve together.
And furthermore, Stoicism encourages us to reframe adversity more broadly, even when it hits the relationship directly. Think of it as a training exercise.
Like the wrestler metaphor again.
Exactly. Just as a wrestler benefits from tough opponents that sharpen their skills, life's challenges, whether it's an illness, a financial crisis, a shared setback, these allow us to display and improve our virtues.
As individuals and as a couple.
Yes. This applies directly to overcoming shared difficulties as a couple. If you can view struggles not just as terrible luck, but as opportunities to practice patience, courage, mutual support, resilience, that can profoundly strengthen the bond. It turns potential breaking points into shared growth experiences.
Facing the world as a united, resilient team.
Exactly. It's an opportunity to really lean into your shared virtues and show what your partnership is made of.
That's a powerful and deeply transformative way to look at challenges.
Yeah.
Not as punishments or just bad luck,
Yeah.
but as opportunities.
Yeah.
Opportunities to grow together, to prove the strength of your character and your bond.
And here's where it gets particularly insightful, I think, and deeply human. The Stoics actually recognized healthy, moderated forms of grief and compassion. It wasn't all stiff upper lip.
Oh. Tell me more about that.
One source describes moderated sensibility to the misfortunes of others, which does not disqualify us for the performance of any duty, and also mentions the melancholy and affectionate remembrance of our departed friends. And get this, it says these are by no means undelicious sensations.
Undelicious, meaning Pleasant.
In a way, yes. Pleasant or perhaps meaningful, valuable, it continues. Though they outwardly wear the features of pain and grief, they are all inwardly stamped with the ennobling characters of virtue and self-approbation.
Wow. So feeling that gentle sadness, that affectionate memory, that compassion, it's actually virtuous? It ennobles you.
That's what this passage suggests. It highlights that a temperate, affectionate remembrance, or a genuinely compassionate response to your partner's suffering, it's not only compatible with Stoicism, it can actually be a virtuous experience. It enriches our character, deepens our understanding of connection. It's a profound acknowledgement of the human heart's capacity for deep feeling when it's tempered by wisdom and purpose.
That adds so much warmth and humanity to the picture.
It does. And Epictetus also gives advice for when we see others in distress. He says we shouldn't just, indulge in unbridled pity or get completely swept away by their emotions.
What should we do instead?
We should convert our impression of their situation into a question about our own moral character. Ask yourself, what is required of me as someone trying to be good, trying to be philanthropic in relation to this person?
Shift from just feeling bad with them to thinking about how to help virtuously.
Exactly. It directs us toward virtuous action, offering concrete help, steadfast support, genuine kindness, rather than just emotional indulgence, which can sometimes lead to shared despair or unproductive wallowing.
And in a partnership, that means.
It translates to actively engaging with your partner's distress, not just feeling sorry for them, but asking, how can I act virtuously and effectively to support them right now, anchored in my own calm reason?
Be a rock, but a compassionate one, offering practical help and wise counsel, not just shared tears.
Something like that, yes. The tears might be there, but the focus is on virtuous action and support.
So, the profound takeaway here is that Stoicism really teaches us to face life's toughest moments and the inevitable pain of loss with courage, with compassion, and with a clear sense of purpose. It teaches us how to mourn meaningfully, how to support our partners effectively when they're hurting, and how to keep living a virtuous, flourishing life, even when things are incredibly difficult. It sounds like a philosophy for enduring love, precisely because it helps us endure trials.
I think that captures it beautifully. It's love grounded in resilience and shared virtue. Outro.
Well, we've certainly journeyed through a surprising landscape today. Stoicism and relationships, often seen as opposites, almost.
Yeah, the common view is definitely challenged by the sources.
Far from that image of cold detachment, we've really uncovered a philosophy that seems to champion profound connection, truly resilient love, and genuinely virtuous living together. It totally redefines what it means to be a strong and loving partner.
Absolutely. If we were to recap the core insights we've discussed.
Yeah, let's do that.
First, Stoicism actually embraces natural affection. It sees the human need for union as fundamental, even a duty, not something to be avoided.
Right, the oikeiosis.
Exactly. Second, it equips us powerfully to manage our expectations. By focusing on our judgments, accepting what's beyond our control, it significantly reduces so much unnecessary suffering and disappointment in relationships.
The dichotomy of control and action.
Third, it provides real tools for better communication. Through that radical self-awareness, that commitment to truth, kindness, and rational discussion, even, maybe especially, during conflict.
Owning our judgments.
Yes. And perhaps most importantly, it prioritizes character development above all else, which transforms us into better, more reliable, more joyful partners, capable of deep inner contentment and, ideally, a shared purpose with the one we love.
If love, then, in its truest, deepest form, is really about growth, about virtue, about shared purpose,
Yes.
then maybe a Stoic partnership isn't just about, surviving the challenges that life throws at you, but truly thriving through them, side by side, becoming stronger, more virtuous, more deeply connected with every shared experience. It sounds like choosing to walk a demanding path, but knowing the rewards are incredibly profound.
That's a powerful way to think about it. And maybe a final thought to leave our listeners with.
Please.
Consider this. If the Stoics believed that wisdom means finding joy primarily in our own resources, in our own character, desiring no joys greater than our inner joys, what does it truly mean then to choose to share that profound, self-sufficient inner joy with another person? To actively cultivate a shared virtue together, a bond that aims to stand unshakable against whatever fate throws your way? Is that choice, that shared commitment, not in itself a testament to the deepest, most enduring form of human connection. A love built not on fleeting emotions or external guarantees, but on that unshakable foundation of shared character and a joint pursuit of wisdom.
That is definitely something to ponder. A love grounded in inner strength and shared virtue. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Stoicism and the art of love.
My pleasure.
We really hope it gives you, our listeners, something profound to think about, and perhaps even some insights to integrate into your own most cherished relationships.